Well, we don't know if Brett Kavanaugh was completely innocent or not of all the charges that were laid against him. I suspect he wasn't guilty at all. That's just my personal opinion. But one of the things we do know after last week, that Christine Ford was certainly gang raped by her lawyers and Diane Feinstein and the Democrat Party. She was used like a hooker. And here she is. This is a really sad story. And I want to get into this about what went wrong, how she ended up there, and how they just completely fucked this woman over.
Okay. Was it communicated to you by...
Bear in mind, her attorneys, Ms. Katz and Mr. Bromwich, are two of the most prominent left-wing lawyers in the city of Washington, okay? They are major players. Katz has a deep connection to Diane Feinstein, the Clinton family, and everything like that, tied to him for years. Mr. Bromwich has been around bashing Republicans since the Iran-Contra period. He's currently head defense lawyer for McCabe, the disgraced FBI boss, who's probably going to end up going to jail at some point in the not-too-distant future. All right, so let's see how this turns out. Watch.
Your counsel or someone else that the committee had asked to interview you and that they offered to come out to California to do so?
Yeah, he's about to object. And why he's going to object to that question is an obvious thing. He was hired as her lawyer to make sure that her name and her identity was kept private. That was the point of the whole thing. She sent the letter, and throughout this video, you're going to see her saying over and over and over again, she never gave anybody permission to leak out her name. And this guy's job was to make sure that she understood clearly that she never needed to go to Washington at all, and that the committee could have come to her gladly, taken an interview, and pursued the matter from there privately and confidentially. But that isn't what they were there for, and you're going to see how they slid into her life and completely screwed this woman over.
Object, Mr. Chairman, to any call for privileged conversations between counsel and Dr. Ford.
Now look at the look on Dr. Ford's face. She's starting to get this odd look like she's finding out something for the first time, and it isn't good.
It's a privileged
Could you validate the fact that the offer...
Look at the look on her face. She doesn't know what's going on. That is the biggest deer in the headlights thing I've ever seen. And then when you look at her lawyer, okay, he doesn't care. He's staring straight ahead because he's thinking, we did our jobs. We put this broad's ass in this seat, and we're here, and let's go at it.
was made without her saying a...
Look at her look at him. She's stunned. She doesn't know what they're talking about. She's been completely set up, and she's staring at him, and he's not staring at her.
Word.
Now he's looking over to the Democrats, hoping one of them will jump in and bail him out. Meanwhile, Dr. Ford is looking increasingly alarmed. Now she's staring at him again, and he's smirking. Look at the smirk on this prick's face, okay? He says, fuck it, I got her here. And Dr. Ford is sitting here saying, I didn't plan on being here. What are they talking about? Are you saying I could have done this from home?
Is it possible for that question to be answered without violating any consul relationships?
Can I say something to you? Do you mind if I say something to you directly?
Yeah.
I just appreciate that you did offer that. I wasn't clear on what the offer was. If you were going to come out to see me, I would have happily hosted you and had been happy to speak with you out there. I just did not, it wasn't clear to me that that was the case.
Okay.
Now, the woman over her on the left side of the screen here is one of her other attorneys. And when she said, it wasn't clear to me what the offer was or what it was or what was going on, that woman just took a gulp. She looked like she was going to choke on her own tongue, because she knows too.
Does that take care of your question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, proceed then.
Before July 30th, the date on your letter to Senator Feinstein, had you retained counsel with regard to these allegations?
No, I didn't understand why I would need lawyers, actually. So I just didn't know.
A lot of people have that feeling.
You poor dumbbell. You didn't need a lawyer. As long as you're going to remain anonymous, you were just sending a letter to Diane Feinstein and letting her take it from there. She promised you later on that you would remain completely anonymous. So why on earth would you need a lawyer? Well, you need a lawyer if you're getting dragged before the Senate.
Let's talk about the letter that you wrote on July 30th. You asked Senator Feinstein to make...
Oh, I found it. Sorry.
Okay. You asked Senator Feinstein to maintain confidentiality until we have had further opportunity to speak, and then said you were available to speak further, vacationing in the Mid-Atlantic until August 7th. Is that correct?
The last line, is that what you're, I'm now just catching up with you. Sorry, I'm a little slower. My mind is getting a little tired. I am available to speak further should you wish to discuss. Yes, I was in Delaware until August 7th.
Okay.
And after that, I went to New Hampshire and then back to California.
Did you talk with anybody about this letter before you sent it?
I talked with Anna Eshu's office.
Okay.
Anna Eshu is her local congresswoman out in California, just in case you didn't know.
And why did you talk to Congresswoman Eshu's office about that letter?
Because they were willing to hand deliver it to Senator Feinstein.
Okay. Did anyone help you write the letter?
No.
Okay. After you sent your letter, did you or anyone on your behalf speak to Senator Feinstein personally or with any Senate staffer?
Yes.
Okay.
I had a phone call with Senator Feinstein.
Okay, and when was that?
That was while I was still in Delaware, so before August 7th.
Okay. And how many times did you speak with Senator Feinstein?
Once.
Okay. What did you talk about?
She asked me some questions about the incident, and I answered those questions.
Okay. Was that the extent of the gist of the conversation?
Yes, it was a fairly brief phone call.
Okay.
It was a fairly brief phone call, which means Diane Feinstein didn't believe the story herself, but thought this could be a useful thing going down the road. If Diane Feinstein felt that this accusation against Brett Kavanaugh was legitimate and solid, she would have had her on the phone going through every little detail and making arrangements to get more information from her immediately. This wouldn't have been put off. She wouldn't have sat on it. But Feinstein, being the hack she is, realized, well, this is an interesting development. It might come in handy down the road. We'll see how things go, okay? In the meantime, we'll try to keep her sort of, on the back burner.
Did you ever give Senator Feinstein or anyone else the permission to release that letter?
Not that I know of, no.
Did you notice that? She said, not that I know of, and she looked immediately at Katz, her lawyer, at Katz. All right, the reason is she's beginning to wonder if these people didn't out her.
Okay. Between the letter date, July 30th, and August the 7th, did you speak with any other person about your allegations?
Could you say the dates again?
Between the letter date of July 30th and August 7th, so while you were still in Delaware, did you speak with any other person about your allegations?
I'm just trying to remember what dates that,
Stop the,
You're asking her with the
No,
exclusion
stop
of
the-
any lawyers
stop
that
the
she may
clock.
have spoken with, correct?
Correct.
The lawyers got to cover their asses, and there he is again. They want to make sure that they're not being pulled into this conversation.
oh, correct. I think correct then. I was interviewing lawyers,
Start
but
the
I
clock.
was not
Okay.
speaking personally about it.
Aside from lawyers that you were seeking to possibly hire to represent you, did you speak to anybody else about it during that period of time?
No.
Okay.
I was staying with my parents at the time.
Did you talk to them about it?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Look at the look on her face, all right? Now, that's a very strange thing. She's staying with her parents. She's about to write a letter. She sent a letter to Diane Feinstein, the head of this, the co-head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, that allegations that could derail one of the most controversial appointments in a generation, and she can't talk about it with her parents. As an aside to all this, it's also interesting to note that in the weeks following, when the revelations came out that it was she making the claim, her parents never once stepped up to bat for her, to defend her, or to attest to her integrity or her honesty. The only thing her father had to say during the whole process was that our daughter has had a wonderful academic career. She's worked very hard. She's accomplished many things, that kind of thing, sort of general accolades for having a bright daughter that went to college, and that they love her very much. Her mother had no comment at all, not a word. Does that sound like somebody that believes their daughter?
Okay. So would it be fair to say that you retained counsel during that time period of July 30th to August 7th?
I can't remember the exact date, but it was I was interviewing lawyers during that period of time, sitting in the car, in the driveway, and in the Walgreens parking lot in Rehoboth, Delaware, and trying to figure out how the whole system works of interviewing lawyers and how to pick one, etc. So.
Now, what's most interesting in this, and it's not on these clips, but during the hearings it was revealed that she didn't know who he was even paying for her lawyers. Now, if you're about to sign on with two of probably the most expensive lawyers you could possibly get in the country, $400 or $500 hour attorneys, and you didn't ask how much they charge or who's paying for it, why is that?
You testified earlier that you didn't see the need for lawyers, and now you're trying to hire them. What made you change your mind?
It seemed like most of the individuals that I had told, which didn't, the total was not very high, but those persons advised me to, at this point, get a lawyer for advice about whether to push forward or to stay back.
Did that include Congresswoman Eshoo and Senator Feinstein?
No.
Wait a minute. If Diane Feinstein didn't give her the name of Katz and Bromwich, who did? This woman lives in California. She wouldn't even know who they are. She'd have no idea who they are. All right? And it can't be just a coincidence. She retained two of them. She got them all. And we'll see what happens next.
I want to thank Dr. Ford for what you said about acknowledging that we had said we'd come together.
Thank you. We've heard this morning several times that you did take a polygraph, and that was on August the 7th. Is that right?
I believe so. It was the day I was flying from BWI to Manchester, New Hampshire.
Okay. Why did you decide to take a polygraph?
I didn't see any reason not to do it.
The big question is, who suggested the polygraph? If you're planning on remaining completely anonymous, you don't need a polygraph test. You made the accusation, and going forward, the FBI has plenty of time, if Feinstein had done the right thing, to go out and start an investigation. If they needed to polygraph Dr. Ford, she could have taken it then. This was a preemptive move. This is what lawyers do when they're building a case to put you in a position. The position wasn't to keep her anonymous.
Were you advised to do that?
Again, you're seeming to call.
All right. This again gets back to him not telling her the whole truth about what she could have done to avoid having to come before the committee. And not only did he not do that, or Attorney Getz, they're now having her take polygraph tests, okay? Because these are the people that obviously suggested it, as you're about to see. She didn't even know where the polygraph test man even came from. He just sort of appeared, as you're about to hear.
For communications between counsel and client, I don't think you mean to do that. If you do, she shouldn't have to answer that.
Counsel, could you let her answer the extent to which she doesn't violate the relationship between you and Dr. Ford?
Say what you understand.
And what he's telling her now is just to be careful what you say and don't implicate me. That's the gist of it. Just say you just took the test and that's it.
Based on the advice of the counsel, I was happy to undergo the polygraph test, although I found it extremely stressful, much longer than I anticipated. I told my whole life story, I felt like, but I endured it. It was fine.
I understand they can be that way. Have you ever taken any other polygraphs in your life?
Never.
Okay. You went to see a gentleman by the name of Jeremiah Hannafin to serve as the polygrapher. Did anyone advise you on that choice?
Okay, the lawyer again is got to talk to her, because it was the lawyers who picked him. He's a former FBI guy, and there's no way in the world this woman would have known even how to locate him.
Yes, I believe his name was Jerry.
Jerry Hannafin.
Yeah.
Okay.
She didn't even really know his name.
Did anyone advise you on that choice?
I don't understand that. Yeah, I didn't choose him myself. He was the person that came to do the polygraph test.
Okay.
Good girl, you didn't implicate the lawyers in bringing him in. You just said he just appeared.
He actually conducted the polygraph not in his office in Virginia, but actually at the hotel next to Baltimore Washington Airport. Is that right?
Correct.
Why was that location chosen for the polygraph?
I had left my grandmother's funeral at Fort Lincoln Cemetery that day and was on tight schedule to get a plane to Manchester, New Hampshire, so he was willing to come to me, which
Well, that's not exactly true. Her schedule wasn't that tight.
was appreciated.
So he administered a polygraph on the day that you attended your grandmother's funeral?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Or it might have been the next day. I spent the night in the hotel. So
Whoops. So her schedule wasn't all that tight. She was staying in the hotel for the night. She sort of fibbed on that one.
Did you pay for the polygraph yourself?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you know who did pay for the polygraph?
Not yet, no.
Not yet, no. Her lawyers paid for it. We found that out later. And their lawyers are working, we found out also later, pro bono, which she apparently didn't even know while she was giving her testimony.
Did you have the handwritten statement that you wrote out? Did anyone assist you in writing that statement?
No, but you can tell how anxious I was by the terrible handwriting.
In your testimony this morning, you stated that Senator Feinstein sent you a letter on August 31st of this year. Is that right?
August 31st. Let me see.
Bear in mind, August 31st is 3 weeks after she sent her the original letter and
I sent
spoke
her a
to
letter on July 30th, and I don't have the date. I'd have to pull up my email to find out the date of her email to me saying that it was right before the hearings that she was going to maintain the confidentiality of the letter.
Say that again. It was till right before the hearings.
That's my memory, but I can look it up for you if you would like the exact date. I could pull it up on my email.
Oh, yeah. I want to make sure.
Counsel?
I want to make sure I understood what you said.
That document's been turned over to, in response to a request for documents. You have it.
Thank you, counsel. I want to make sure I understood what you said. Was it your understanding it was going to be kept confidential up until right before the hearing?
It was my understanding that it was going to be kept confidential, period.
Period. It was never going to be released. Never. She never planned on coming out. So how did this happen?
Period. Okay. Between your polygraph on August the 7th and your receipt of the letter from Senator Feinstein, did you or anyone on your behalf speak to any member of Congress or congressional staff about these allegations?
I personally did not.
So my question was, did you or anybody on your behalf?
Think about that for a minute. She sends this explosive letter. 3 weeks go by afterwards, after speaking to Feinstein. They never talk to her again. And the hearings are coming up. There's been no investigation. There's been no nothing. Nothing has happened. Nothing. All right? So who's been talking to Feinstein's office all this time? Do you think it might have been her 2 lawyers? Somebody's been talking to them.
What do you mean? Did someone speak for me?
Somebody that is working with you or helping you? Did somebody at your behest, on your behalf, speak to somebody in Congress or a staff?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how those exchanges went, but I didn't speak to anyone.
How those exchanges went. What exchanges?
Okay. Is it possible that somebody did?
I think so. It would be possible. I'm guessing it would be possible, but I don't know.
Okay.
Excuse me, you've asked her not to guess, and now you're asking her what's possible. So I think if you want to ask her what she knows, you should ask her what she knows.
That's right. Only ask her what she knows, because she doesn't know we've been talking to Senator Feinstein's office for the last 3 weeks, trying to get this thing put together.
Is that an objection, counsel?
It is
I'll have the
objection.
chair rule on that.
I don't know what I don't understand.
She just said, I don't understand. What she doesn't understand is that she's being played. And she's being played to sort of be like a spare arrow in the old quiver, just in case they can't derail Kavanaugh through traditional means. They can drag her out and throw the monkey wrench into the wheel, sort of the last minute, just to stall it off. They just got to get to November after all.
Unless there's a legal reason for not answering it, on advice of your counsel.
So I don't totally understand the question, but I didn't speak with anyone during that time frame other than my counsel.
Okay. You've said repeatedly that you did not think that letter that you wrote on July 30th was going to be released to the public. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is it true that you did not authorize it to be released at any time?
Correct.
Okay. Besides your attorneys, did you provided that letter to Senator Feinstein, is that correct?
I provided her a letter on July 30th.
We're talking about the July 30th letter.
Okay.
And you provided that letter to Senator Feinstein, correct? Is that a yes?
Yes.
And you provided the letter to Representative Eshoo to deliver to Senator Feinstein?
Yes.
Besides those 2 individuals, Representative Eshoo and Senator Feinstein, and your attorneys, did you provide that letter to anyone else?
No.
Okay, so it's highly unlikely that a local congresswoman leaked it, and Feinstein might not have, but the lawyers, absolutely. Bear in mind, Feinstein needs plausible deniability if this thing got out, and they can't have anything tied to their office. But a phone call, a comment with the lawyers, maybe it can get out there. And that's what probably happened. I'm just guessing.
Do you know how that letter became public?
No.
After that letter was made public or leaked, did you reach back out to the Washington Post?
I reached out to the Washington, well, they were continuously reaching out to me, and I was not responding. But the time that I did respond and agree to do the sit-down was once the reporters started showing up at my home and at my workplace.
And that's how they got her to come to the hearing, right there. They probably couldn't have subpoenaed her or forced her to come, because then it would make it look like a really bad adversarial situation. So what they did was they let the media force her out. Everybody showed up at her house. They were showing up at her work. Her name was all over the news. And she sort of got pressured into it. And bear in mind where she teaches. She teaches at a university that's extremely progressive, social justice warriors everywhere. It has 80% female student body. They advocate for all kinds of causes there. This is a very activist college. If you go to their website, you can check it out. It's pretty clear what kind of a school it is. And she could be made into a hero. And it wasn't too hard to talk her into it, even though she didn't know she'd been sandbagged.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Ford, thank you for being here.
And that's the end of it. The rest, as they say, is history. They maneuvered her into coming. They made her sort of the Hail Mary of this whole thing. And it's doubtful that Brett Kavanaugh ever laid a finger on her, but it's pretty obvious that Feinstein, Katz, and Bromwich gangbanged this woman. She was raped and humiliated. And as we know, the case didn't hold up. And apparently there's something in the FBI report that swung the people that weren't so certain over to voting in favor of Kavanaugh's nomination to be on the Supreme Court, and that's how it went. All right, and right now Feinstein is fighting tooth and nail because apparently there was a fair bit of collusion in the Senate on the Democrat side to make this happen. And Feinstein doesn't want that. That was what the FBI discovered. Apparently, there was a lot of pressure out there to make it happen. And Feinstein is fighting even a redacted version of that report from ever being made public. And that's what happened. Think of it in November when you go to vote.